friends! Welcome to our next week of awesome circuits. I know some of you guys want to look at mythical creatures, and I thought it would be really fun to learn about some of the myths around the United States and creatures that are in the United States. So we are making some simple, fun little folder pieces that are going to light up and hold a story for you to write. So this is a great way to get into some creative writing, and I'll show you how to make the storybook. If you want to make the storybook, you just need some extra paper with you, and that's a pretty easy thing. And we are going to do all sorts of ones. We're doing Sasquatch today, which you also might know as Bigfoot. We're doing Bessie up in Lake Michigan. We have a whole bunch of fun ones that we're going to do today. So I hope you guys join us as we learn about myths and creatures. And then next week, we're going to do Pokemon. I know Rohan was really excited to do Pokemon, and we were in Zoom and we sketched out a whole plan of all different ones we're going to make. So they are going to be amazing. I'm super excited about that. And if you have something you really want to do, we have a few more weeks of summer. Before September, we're going to do paper circuits all through August. So if you have a plan that you want to do, let us know. And then in September, we're going to start back up with our normal science so that you guys can come to science as you guys are doing school online, since I know a lot of kids are in school online. And I know a lot of kids had a good time in our Zoom classroom, meeting each other and working with each other and sharing things together. So that was a really big point of my year, even though it was a little disrupted from COVID. And I hope to bring that sort of stability back to you guys. And if you want to come into our Zoom room at any point, it is always at patreon.com/RosieResearch, and you can support us at any level. So like $1 a week helps us make our programs, gets you into the Zoom room, and gives you a schedule. You can come one day, you can come 5 days, you can skip an entire week. It's totally okay. We're just here to support you guys. All right, so I'm going to tell you guys what we need for today's project, and then we'll get to our shout-outs, and we will do our program. So what you guys need is our printouts. Each day this week has 2 printouts. One will make our little folder that lights up, and then one is going to be extra things that we can cut out. George has already started cutting out some pieces that we can then add on top to create a really cool montage for our storybook. And you can add different things depending on what you think your story will be about. So you need those. I like to print them, especially this one that's going to be our folder. I like to print them on thicker paper, which will just give them a little more support. You need a pair of scissors because we will be cutting. You need something to poke holes with. So I have this like metal awl, but you might have like a push pin that can get a hole started really easily. And then you can just push through with a pencil to make that hole bigger, or maybe you have a hole punch. You're going to need some copper tape. So this is a special tape that helps us lay down little highways for our electrons to drive on and create their circuits. This is copper. There's also aluminum tape. Or if you don't have either of these, you can use aluminum foil. It's just a little trickier because you got to cut it skinny and not tape over parts you're going to connect later. You need a non-conductive tape. So this is like a non-metallic tape, a paper tape or a plastic tape. I'm using masking tape, but you could use a duct tape, a washi tape, electrical tape, scotch tape. All of those types of tapes will work for our non-conducting tape. And that sort of helps us separate our highways to make sure that our electrons can't take shortcuts. Then you need something to power your circuit, kind of like every highway needs some gas stations. This guy is going to put the gas in those little electronic cars that are driving through our circuits. And we use CR2032 batteries. You can get these at your grocery store. If you don't find CR2032, that's fine. Some of them, they have different names and they're different shapes. So they might be like a little bit bigger than this one. They might be a little thicker, but please make sure that they are 3 volts. So we need 3 volts for it to light up our LEDs. Less than that won't light them up. All right. And then of course we need LEDs. So I have an array of LED colors, and I even have in my white ones, I have some rainbows mixed in. I suggest getting sort of a kit that has all different colors so you can use the colors you want, especially next week when you do Pikachu. We have Pikachu's cheeks that light up, and you probably want to light them up red like it is in the Pokemon card instead of a different color. But again, you have complete artistic license. And then we just have a little bit of paper to make the storybook. I'll show you guys how to do that, the insert, so you can write your stories. And I think that's all we need. All right, well, let's get started.
All right.
So we are going to start with the paper circuit portion of our template. And this one is going to be a little easier in terms of cutting and folding than our other ones. So we're going to cut on the thick black line here, And then there's a bunch of dotted lines that we have. I think there's one down here. There's some dotted lines that we have that we're also going to pre-fold on, and then we're going to punch out a hole so that the LED will come through the paper onto the other side. Because if this is your first time, we always hide our circuit stuff.
So
it makes it look really professional.
Don't cut the dotted line.
Yeah, don't cut the dotted lines. Just today is just this one slit, and that's actually the same for all week. We change with the location and sometimes the number of LEDs this week, but the idea of making the folder is going to be the same for all of them. All right, so I'm just going to cut this black line going straight up, and then I'll fold it. And I am super excited because Sasquatch is like a local hero for us. We live in the Pacific Northwest, and Sasquatch, the First Nations out here actually have a name for Sasquatch, and it's pretty much Sasketch. I'm probably saying it wrong, but that's where the name Sasquatch came from. And actually Sasquatch did not get popular until sort of the 1950s when some loggers claimed they saw a massive footprint in the mud. It was 16 inches. They said, ooh, that must be Bigfoot. And it's sort of taken on its own realm, which is really fun. And he does all sorts of things. In fact, in the Pacific Northwest, we have ape caves up here, and it's rumored that that might be one of his little vacation hideouts. We've been there. We got to hike them. It was so much fun. No Bigfoot.
We tried to go this year, but it was closed.
It was closed. Yeah. All right, so I cut on this black line, and then I folded this side up, which you'll notice covers my whole circuit. This one I folded first to the halfway line. There's a dotted line that's sort of right there. So first I folded it on this dotted line like that, and then we're also going to fold on this dotted line. That's going to give us a nice little, sort of like a folder pocket for our little story in the end. So you're going to look something like this when it's all folded, and then we're also going to end up folding it in towards each other even more, just like that. So we have this gorgeous little folder that's going to look like that. So this is going to be your book cover. You can slide your story of Sasquatch in here. On this side, we're going to put a light right there, and then we'll cut out things that we can then add to it to make a back face. But of course, we need our hole for the light, which is this black hole right here. So what I suggest doing is taking something, I like taking something metal, so like a push pin, a metal skewer, this is an awl, and then poking it through that black hole just to get it started. And that's because the metal's sharp and strong, so it doesn't bend your paper as much. And then you can take a pencil or a piece of wood, and you can sort of twist it a little bit and make that hole as big or as little as what you want. So now I have this nice hole that we can pop our little LED through. All right, and now we just have to wire it up. So I'm gonna get my Curious George book over here. Who knew Curious George was going to be so useful? I'm gonna tape mine sideways so that it sort of can see all of it at once. Georgia is working so hard on cutting out the various pieces to her project. I wonder what story she will tell. I wonder what story everyone's gonna tell. That's always my favorite part. All right, so we are gonna get out our copper tape. So that's our conductive tape. It's like a metallic tape, so it'll be copper or aluminum colored, or maybe you're just using straight aluminum foil. And you'll rip off a piece. You can rip this with your fingers. For our friends who might have never done this and are joining us, it's always a little tricky to get your copper tape started. I like to sort of press out down in the beginning, and then you can separate the two pieces. So you have the paper backing and the copper tape. And it's sticky on the inside, so it sticks to my finger. You might be tempted to take this whole piece off to then put it down. And what happens is it gets really, really curly and completely useless when that happens. So instead of ripping it all off and then putting it down, what we like to do is we get it started, and then we start sticking it straight to the paper as we peel it off. So I get it started by just getting a little bit of it peeled off, and then I choose a line. So I could either do the yellow line or the orange line. We'll do the yellow line first today. I want to align my copper tape so it's going the direction of it. All right, that helps me know that when I put this down as I peel and stick it, it's going to come this way. So I'll grab it, I'm going to stick it down to the paper, just press it on down, and peel off that white backing, and then you just press down later and it will stick that tape to the paper. Now here I have a bend, and I cannot rip this and then add a new layer, because that sort of creates this big gash in my highway and then a whole new level, and the cars can't get from one level to the other. So what we do is we create like a ramp, and so I peel extra of this, and then I know I want to go up, so I can hold this sort of coming up, and you see how it sort of already gives itself a wave? And then what you can do, you can sort of bend it a little bit like that, and then you just press down somewhere else that you're going, so not necessarily right below it. And then you can press down, and then this whole thing just becomes a fold. And then we're going to go all the way into this gray circle, and we want to make sure we don't go barely into that gray circle. Oop, I need to rip mine off before it keeps wanting to come off as I pull on it. I need to make sure I go into the circle, but not barely, all right? So if I had gone just to like right here, my circuit won't work very well. So I want to go well into that gray circle, not out of it preferably. And then you can sort of just press down this tape. You can always use a thumbnail or a fingernail to really get it to stick onto that paper for you. I'm going to do the same thing for the orange line. And so we'll take this guy. Oops, I got a little bent over, so I can just rip that pretty easily. And I will stick it down to the paper, and I will just follow this line. This time I'm going to end inside the green circle, and again, I want to go well within the green circle, not just barely in. I also don't want to leave the green circle. So it's important that it ends inside the green circle, but sort of towards the middle. And I can flatten that out as well. All right, we are mostly there. So now we're going to add our batteries and our LEDs. One thing I always love to do is make sure that your LED and your battery work together. So you can choose a color that you want. I think I'm actually going to use yellow, because I'm going to make it so that my moon lights up. I'm going to cut out the moon, I think, and Sasquatch will come out on the full moon, and maybe that's when he goes grocery shopping or something. I'm not sure.
Or maybe I would make the moon and then make a unicorn on it.
Ooh, George is already thinking past Sasquatch, which I love. All right, so whatever you decide you're going to light up, you want to check your battery and find the LED you want. So I'm going to use yellow. Maybe with unicorns, Georgia might use a rainbow. That's up to her, because we have it and you would find it. We want to make sure that our LED lights up. So I could attach both legs to the top of my LED. It doesn't light up. There's no sort of circle or circuit from the top of the battery to the bottom. Same thing if I add both legs to the bottom, it does not work. So I could straddle the battery where I have one leg on each side, and you could pinch the legs. Here you'll notice nothing's happening. I could flip that over and my LED lights up. This is the way we want it. And the reason for this is that the cars will actually go down a slide, and as they go down that slide into a tunnel, they get so excited and happy, they light up, which is what's creating that LED. But the electrons are really good rule followers. Nobody ever breaks a rule. And they will never climb up that slide. So they will only go down. So if you have the slide backwards, they sort of sit there and wonder what to do. All right, so you want to make sure that you can light up your LED. This tells us that the LED works and the battery works. Sometimes you might have an LED that you think works, and maybe you've played with it before. Let's see if I can do this, because sometimes the leads of the LED, and the leads are the little legs that we talk about, sometimes they can get disconnected or break. I'm not sure if I can bend this one quickly enough. But it will, yeah, it's still working. Sometimes you'll get like little breaks in it, and then they won't work anymore. So sometimes you always want to check that everything works. All right, I'm going to grab a new LED just because I bent those legs all over the place, and I don't like the idea of making a circuit that doesn't work. All right, so we are going to plug in our battery. Our battery goes right on the green circle, and it is going to be where you can see the letters. So I can see the little plus sign, and it tells me it's a CR2032 battery, so that's really important. I'm going to scrape up some of my Curious George tape so that when we finish making this, it comes off. All right, so I'm going to use my non-conductive tape. So I'm going to use my masking tape for this, or maybe you have a scotch tape or something like that to tape my battery in. And we're going to tape over the sides, just these little edges right here, not over the top. In fact, you could put your finger on the top to make sure you don't accidentally go over the top.
You know what I just found out? It is almost Naomi's birthday.
calibrate. That sounds awesome. All right, so I put a little bit of tape right here, and I can just smush it in around. It creates like a little tape pocket, which is kind of cool. And then my battery is in, and you'll notice I have a whole bunch right here of that we can see the metal for. All right, there's a whole bunch of metal that we can see, and that is good because to create the circuit, we're gonna go from the bottom into the LED, which will be right here, into here, and then I'm just gonna go into the top. And that happens when we fold this piece over. So now we wanna add our little LED. Now your LED has two legs, one slightly longer, one slightly shorter. We gotta make sure that we pay attention because that tells us which way the slide goes. So the long leg, we wanna make sure goes onto this long leg line, and the shorter leg needs to go onto this short leg line, and that will ensure that our slide is going the right direction. All right.
Can you please pass the copper tape?
Oh, yeah. All right, so we're gonna stick the legs of the LED through our paper, and right now I have, oops, that one doesn't go, I made my hole too big. I've got the long leg on top, so I just need to rotate my LED so the long leg goes down below, like that, and the short leg comes over here. All right, I wanna make sure they go sort of along. So this long leg that's coming straight across, I'm actually gonna bend it just a little bit. So it sort of starts to go along that copper tape line. And then I'm gonna use another non-conductive tape. So again, my masking tape, or your scotch tape, or your duct tape, any of those kinds of tapes. And I'm going to tape straight across the legs and tape them both in. You wanna make sure that those legs are touching the copper tape line. If they're touching just paper, it's not gonna work. We won't have our highways in place. All right, and so now we have the moment of truth. Right now we have an open circuit because we go from the bottom of the battery into the LED, over through this leg, and then there's this huge gap. So it's open or off, but what I can do is if I close that gap, so if I fold this piece over, I'm gonna have that piece of metal touch the top of the battery and it will make a circuit, and my LED should light up.
Like that?
All right, and it's nice because it's pressure sensitive, so it won't always be on. Great job, Georgia. Georgia has become a circuit pro. You might find these turns difficult in the beginning, and as you keep practicing, they will get easier.
Can you help me?
All right, I can help you in Zoom, but you can add in your battery. All right, so we have our circuit working, and if it's not working for you and you're in Zoom, we can always get it working for you in just a little bit over in Zoom. But it is working, so now I'm going to show you how to put this all together.
Wait, can you pause and go maybe over for our YouTube what common troubleshooting things might be?
Ooh, yes, good question. So a couple common troubleshooting things. One that's really common is people accidentally tape their battery in like that. It is like the number one thing. People love to tape their battery in like that, even though we talk about keeping that top open. It's really tricky too if you're using clear tape, because then you can still see the metallic top and you're like, but Dr. Erica, I can see it, it's still working, but you still have that layer of clear. So that's something that's really important to look for. Another common thing is that maybe on your turn you ripped it, or when it bent and you flattened it, it ripped, so that you have two sort of different lines of tape. One way to fix that would be to put a little piece of copper tape down. So you maybe would take this little piece of copper tape and put it copper to copper down and then tape over that to be a little jumper for the electrons that can go up into that other piece.
You can't use the sticky side.
You can't use the sticky side, yeah. It has to be face to face. Or you could put a little piece of aluminum foil taped over the top. Another common thing is to have those LED legs flipped over. So even though you thought you paid attention, sometimes even our best paying attention, we accidentally flip them, or maybe they're slightly off and they're not making contact with the copper tape rails that we laid down. So those are a couple really important things. One thing to know when you're troubleshooting is that, let's say I fold this and I see it light up and then it stops lighting up. So it's just like a flicker. That super frustrating for kids, but is also really, really good. That means that your battery is working, your LED is working, and your copper tape, your whole circuit is working. It just somewhere needs better contact. And in that situation, I always recommend peeling back these little spots with the legs. All right, so I just do one at a time, and you can peel them back a little bit so you can see one leg. And then you can add a piece of copper tape, shiny side down, like Evan mentioned, so you would see the white paper on top of it. So this creates like a little copper tape LED leg sandwich, and you can tape back over that. And that helps your connectivity. And then sometimes even just pressing really hard on the legs will help. So that's one way to fix the legs if it's not working for you.
Or if it's flickering.
Or if it's flickering, yeah. And sometimes even it might have flickered before and now it's no longer working, right? Like you went back to it and it wasn't working. All right, so as we're making this, I want to tape right here. I would do this personally with a scotch tape. I'm going to do it with masking tape so that you guys can see it really well. But at home, I might do it with something that's clear that you can't see, or maybe some washi tape that you love.
There.
But I am going to just tape this piece right here.
I did it.
Just like that. Nice job, Georgia.
Now what?
All right, now you gotta tape those legs in.
Which kind of tape?
The non-conductive.
Okay.
All right, so I've got that guy. I could tape around this edge too. I don't want to tape too tightly because if I tape really tightly, it's gonna always be on and I don't really want that. But I could do a roll tape that sort of lets it be closed so you can't see it, which is always so cool, but also not on. And the way you would do that is you put your tape halfway on one side. So just like that, I got it halfway on one side. And then I'm just gonna gently roll it over.
Mama, can you help me?
I'm gonna try, oop, that was actually a little too tight. So maybe,
Can you help me?
I can help you a little bit, Georgia. I will just go on the top piece up here. And again, if you do this with scotch tape, you won't even see it. All right, so now I can have this sort of closing, which is really cool. It makes it look like a cover. You could do that on the top. You could do this on all the edges you want to, where you're sort of closing up that circuit. All right, now it doesn't look super awesome with mine because mine, I'm using tape that I'm using tape that you can see. But yours, you won't be able to see that tape. And then it will fold closed. And if you wanted to, you could actually trim even a little bit. If you want it to fold closed a little bit better, I can show you a trick for that. All right, you can use that tape to put yours in. If you want it to fold close a little better, you could trim a little bit of this off, just like that. That comes all the way down, and that will help it just close just slightly better. But if you're happy with the way yours closes, then you don't even need to do that extra bit. You could do the same thing here too if you wanted to. You could cut this part and just give it a little bit extra so that it folds a little better. But that's a step that you don't really have to do. And a little goes a long way for that. All right, so then you can, of course, again, we want to tape this down. And this is going to look so good. Your parents or your grandparents, whoever you want to write the story for, is going to be super impressed because you're going to have this little circuit piece that lights up and it's going to be this book cover and you don't see the circuit. I love that. And then all of our circuit instructions that I had printed out are going to fold up like this so that you can't see them either. So you can look like you're the amazing genius behind creating this. And then you just tape these guys in place right here. So I could tape half on right like that and then wrap it around just like that. All right, and that gets that part in. And then I could lift this piece of tape up and I could tape it right down like that.
That's what I was going to say. You can also do that.
Isn't that beautiful? So now I have this cute little folder and it has a little cover that will light up when I press in the right spot. All right. So now I'm going to show you guys real fast how to make the storybook that you could put in here. All right, so I have some just plain white copy paper. And Georgia, if you want to make your book at the same time, you can. What we're going to do first is we're just going to fold it in half. All right, and For our friends who need help, we will get you guys all sorts of help over in Zoom. All right. And for our friends on YouTube, you can always type it in the comments. If you want more than a couple pages, you can just add extras like this. All right, and then we put it in here and it creates sort of this lovely little book. Now this book is too big to fit. So we're gonna need to just cut off some of the edge pieces. So we'll just cut straight up like that. I would do this after you have all your pieces together. We're just getting ready for it to pop off. Just like that. All right, so now this skinny book, which looks even more book-like. And then what I'm gonna do, if you have a stapler, you could staple them. Or if you don't, you can take a little piece of tape, especially for just like a 4-page book like this. And what you would do is you take your tape on the inside page and you would tape it halfway onto that inside page. Again, clear tape is perfect for this because you won't be able to see it. Then I bend that tape backwards like that. All right, so I had it half on and now I'm bending it backwards. I'll put this piece in here like that, and I'm just going to fold my page over and it will tape them together for me. So now I have this fun little book that I can write and I can store it right there. It's a little bit tall. If that bothers you, you can just cut a little bit off the height. Just like that. And then pop it on in. So now you have this great cover that we are going to add some stuff to. All right, so our cover needs some art. It's a little plain right now. So Georgia, I'm gonna just use some of Georgia's real fast. She's got this cool Sasquatch guy you could add onto the cover and tape on. She has a really amazing tree that she cut out this tree, which is glorious.
Hey, do you know what my moon
She's got a moon. Where did her moon go? You could do you could layer things, so you could put the foot on, and then you could put Sasquatch over the foot, and it will be backlit. You could add your own landscaping pieces to this. Honestly, this is now a huge art project that you can do and create, and you can create a cover that will talk about your story. So maybe if you want your story to be like during a time of a full moon, you could use that moon Georgia's cut out. Or maybe your story is all about a footprint that is mysteriously large in the woods, and you could put that on your front cover with Sasquatch, and you could add them all to make everything really interesting. And then you open up your book cover, and then you'll have the story. This is a great, easy project that is going to be science, it's art, it's planning, it's got a little bit of engineering in it, writing, it hits all the boxes. So if you're struggling for a project to do at home that your kids are going to have fun with, but also has those extra little things that you want them to stretch their brains, this is a great project for that. And we're going to be writing so many stories all week. In fact, if you want some typing practice, I would be ecstatic, like beyond ecstatic, if you typed me your story and I got to read it. If you email me your story at drerica@rosieresearch.com, oh my gosh, it would make my heart so happy. And I have been known to read such stories on air. So if you want to be famous, if you want to be a famous published writer, you can not only make your project and write your story, you can type it to me. And that is going to be that's a whole day right there. That's a lot of hard work you'd have to put in, but you would be on air, and I would totally give you a call out for that. All right, so we are going to head over into our Zoom classroom for any of our friends who need a little bit of help with their circuits, or maybe it's just time to start decorating our projects, which is great because that was one of my favorite things to do. And then after that, we will see you guys tomorrow as we do our next fun creature. So we'll be making something very similar to this with different cutouts on top. And I am really excited. Hopefully we'll get to share some pictures that you guys send me about what you have created today. All right, goodbye to my YouTube friends. Hello to my Zoom friends. And of course, if you want to get into our Zoom classroom, check us out at patreon.com/rosieresearch. We hope to see you tomorrow. Goodbye, friends.
I might need help.